Welcome back to another episode of Fridays in the Vineyard with Napa Valley Grape Growers. My name is Ben Forgeron, the Vineyard Manager for Groth Vineyards and Winery. We're here at our Oakville estate today. I was hoping to take you guys on a small tour of our vineyards, show you what we're doing this time of the year, some new things going on this year, and also some things to look forward to for the future. Come join me. I began working at Groth a little over 3 years ago, and I was originally hired on as the viticulturist under the former Vineyard Manager Ben Benson, under his direction. This was an awesome experience for me. For those who don't know, Ben Benson was not only the first vineyard manager that Groth has ever had, he was actually the first employee that the family had hired back in the early 80s. So Ben, for me, was a great source of knowledge as far as vineyard management and viticulture goes, but not only that, he had been a steward of the land for so long that he really understood the property better than anybody else. So we're standing currently in our reserve portion of the vineyard. We call this the reserve portion because the fruit from this block goes into our Reserve Cabernet Sauvignon. And it's extra special because of the soil here. The soil that we have here is characterized as a gravelly loam or a gravelly sand loam. And it's originated from an ancient alluvial fan that was deposited here millions of years ago. Geologists have been able to locate and identify this type of gravel here that we're looking at. This is called chert. They're able to find abundance of this here in our reserve block, but also you can find this up in Childs Valley. So we're filming this episode in early July, and our vineyard crew is currently working in this block doing a leaf and lateral removal pass, and they'll follow that up with a fruit thinning pass. So typically for the leaf and lateral removal, we will remove leaves and laterals up to and around the cluster and only on the morning side of the vine. Since this vineyard is trained on a quadrilateral cordon system, we also do a little bit on the inside of the canopy. Now this pass does vary a little bit from block to block. Since the vigor is less on this side of the vineyard, less is necessary. As we move towards the east and the vigor increases, more leaf and lateral removal is necessary to make sure that we have adequate sunlight and airflow penetration into the canopy. The fruit thinning pass that we do is typically what we call a green drop. We'll remove green clusters that are probably lagging in their ripening, and we'll also drop all the second crop. This ensures that we have uniform flavors when the fruit is delivered to the winery. For the past 4 years, Groth has been implementing a partial no-till system here in the vineyard. What that means is one side of the vine has been disked or tilled while the other side has been left untilled. Now, in order to start this project, what we did 4 years ago, we disked the entire vineyard, and the side of the vine that was going to be the till side, we ended up planting mostly annuals. The side that was going to eventually become the no-till side, we planted mostly perennials. Now that we've reached our 4th year, our plan this year is to essentially start over from the beginning. We're disking all of the rows in the vineyard, and we're going to be switching the rows. So you may be asking, why do we do this here at Groth Vineyards? Well, we see benefits from both sides of the coin there. With the disking and the tilling, we find that helps with all of our compaction from our tractor passes, and also helps us eliminate unwanted weeds in the middle of the tractor row. As far as the no-tilling goes, we're really focusing on the health of our soil. That's helping us improve our soil organic matter, helping increase that, as well as helping improve our soil structure. So with the partial no-till system, we kind of feel like we get the best of both worlds. So we've now moved a bit eastward on our property. We're just about in the middle of our property as far as east and west goes, and I wanted to bring you guys here for a couple different reasons. The first reason might be pretty obvious. Look at these vines, they're nice and young, and I wanted to talk to you guys about our replant program that we put together. If you know anything about the history of Groth, there was a period of time when they were not able to produce their Reserve Cabernet. And that's because the decision was made to remove all of those vineyards all at once. And so essentially they had a big gap in production for a few vintages. And so when we approach our new replant program, when we just take small 5 to 10 acre bites every single year, we're avoiding those large gaps in production, and ultimately makes us more sustainable as a company. We planted the vines that you're now looking at in 2019. So these vines are now 2-year-old. This block is about 9.5 acres big. It was formerly Cabernet, and we put it back to also mostly Cabernet again. We're using a clone that we've had success with in the past, as well as a different clone that we're trying out to see how it works out for us. Not only do we have Cabernet in this block, but we've also planted about 250, 300 vines of Petit Verdot. That's these vines that you're looking at right now. And this is pretty exciting for the vineyard and winemaking team here at Groth. We've never had Petit Verdot planted on our Oakville estate before. So here what we're going for is what we can call a relaxed VSP. We have a small 18-inch cross arm about 2/3 the way up of the T-post and another V cross arm on top. And essentially what this is allowing us to do is open up our options for mechanization, whether that be pruning during the growing season or even mechanically harvesting. Now, we don't have any specific plans to do any of that mechanization as of now, but as we look at our labor supply and we look towards the future, we think that we need to be prepared for the worst, even if it may never happen. So we're now located on the far eastern side of our property here in Oakville, and we don't have any Cabernet planted out here. Back in the 80s, Groth did used to have Cabernet planted out here, but they found themselves oftentimes picking in November, and typically the fruit would come in with flavors that were pretty green and vegetal. Nowadays, we don't have any Cabernet planted out here. We just have our Sauvignon Blanc as well as about 11.5 acres of Semillon. As you can see, out here the soil is visually just a lot darker. In the winter, when we get heavy rains, it's the first that floods, and because of that, we've had to install a denser spacing of drain tile. In the summer, when you come out here and when we haven't disked, we get large cracks in the soil and it looks as if everything is dried up, but if you dig a few feet down into the soil, you'll still find moisture. It's pretty incredible. We're now standing in the second stage of our replant program. This block here is about 6 acres, so slightly smaller than the first stage. But we harvested this vineyard, the previous vineyard here, in fall of 2019 and then ripped out the vines shortly thereafter. So these vines, Sauvignon Blanc, the vineyard was Sauvignon Blanc. We're going back to Sauvignon Blanc again. Everything's pretty much the same except for a small change in the rootstock. But these vines were just planted a few weeks ago. So they're just starting to pop their heads out of the carton. We should be seeing our first harvest in 2022. So we've made it to the end of the tour. Thank you everybody for joining me today. And we're ending it right where we started with a glass of the 2016 Reserve Cabernet and the spot where it came from, the Reserve Vineyard. Again, thank you guys for joining me and hope to see you at Groth soon in the future. Cheers.